Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shaun here for Zoobox. Got another off-the-cuff movie review for you today. I'm going to be talking about 2010's Adam McKay directed, written and directed by Adam McKay and Chris Henchy. The Other Guys. The Other Guys from 2010. I watched this with my wife last night. She very rarely ever requests anything in particular, but she was at work, and I guess they were all kind of quoting The Other Guys as people are wont to do. It's weird. It's The Other Guys is not a movie that we revisit very often, but we quote it all the time. There's so many funny, just kind of off the cuff, non sequiturs, kind of just weird moments, and while they make no real sense, they don't really care. They kind of embrace just being a silly comedy and wanting to make you laugh, no matter what, whether or not it makes a ton of sense. Like I said, the one-liners, the scenes that you can watch most of this movie, like most individual scene, you could probably watch in a vacuum and still find funny. A lot of it's not context dependent. The plot is, just like in most comedies, is really secondary, and I don't mind that, especially for movies like this, because they're joke factories. This is kind of the last, in my opinion, the last truly solid collaboration between Adam McKay and Will Ferrell. I think after this they did Anchorman 2. Yeah, Anchorman 2 came out after this. I think it's the next thing that they did together. The Big Short in between that. But that movie's a sloppy fucking mess. It's overlong and it makes no sense, and he's Adam McKay getting further into his crawling up his own ass politically. But it's a very funny movie, though. And that's another example of a movie where you kind of don't need to care about the plot or anything that's really going on. You can just watch scenes in a vacuum, and they work, and they're funny. The Other Guys is full of that same kind of thing. And even though I think that the plot actually holds together a little bit better in something like The Other Guys, it does kind of drive some of the movie forward, at least. But it's super. You can just ignore it. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I have seen this movie probably 5 or 6 times in my life, and honestly, I always kind of forget what it's about, because none of it really matters, because everything else, other individual parts, are so memorable. I mean, Michael Keaton, in a career of memorable, interesting performances, this one stands right next to some of his best ones. It's funny, it's weird, it's it's got this kind of energy and this groundedness to it that only somebody like Michael Keaton could bring to it, which makes it in turn even funnier. And the fact that Michael Keaton's very funny. He has really good timing. He knows what he's doing. It's not accidental, his performance. It's not like they cast Michael Keaton and then they wrote around him. No, Michael Keaton understands how to do this kind of thing, and he fits so well within this world and with these other actors. I mean, Damon Wayans Jr., Rob Riggle. It actually has one of my favorite all-time bits, because they have their super cop action cops with played by Sam Jackson and Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and they're chasing these jewel thieves, and they get on top of a building, and they're so arrogant, and they think they're so superpowered. They're so high on their own supply, if you will, that they see a bunch of bushes, down from a 6-story building, and they say, "You thinking what I'm thinking? Yeah, aim for the bushes," and they just jump off and die. It's great. It's one of my favorite gags in any movie ever. And this movie has a bunch of moments like that. Like I said, going back to Michael Keaton, I mean, the fact that he's this kind of haggard police captain that also moonlights as a Bed Bath & Beyond store manager is hilarious, and they make really good use of that stuff. He's overworked, underpaid, bitching about his son. It actually has a really funny joke about the what at the time, I suppose people maybe didn't take it seriously enough. They're like, "Oh, these dumb college kids," but it makes fun of dumb college kids. He's like, I'm in debt and I'm paying for my kid to go to college, tens of thousands of dollars so he can explore his bisexuality and his love of art or something. It's so funny. It's such a good gag. And the movie is full of that kind of stuff. I mean, there isn't really much else to remark on. Other than that, I think it works in spite of itself a lot of the times. Like I said, the plot really takes a backseat to everything else. And that's okay. In movies like this, I think that's completely acceptable. The only thing that I find maybe in a meta way kind of annoying or funny in equal measure is that Adam McKay just thought he was saying something very important. I got a real kick out of that. This is the beginning of kind of Adam McKay's political coming out party, where he creates these really pedantic, simplistic straw men of what really goes on in the world and thinks that's really what goes on in the world. I mean, The Big Short was actually a fairly accurate and it was a fun way to kind of get that information and listen to that story, but he does this weird thing that these progressive liberal Hollywood types, so they just can't fucking help themselves. They can never point the finger at the government. It always has to be, no, this is just greedy corporations or greedy banks that are just taking advantage of everybody. It's like, dude, so much of this stuff is like government backed or mandated. Speaking of The Big Short, with the loan rating agencies and what they were asked to do by the federal government. But anyways, it's neither here nor there. So it kind of makes me chuckle a little bit just to think that he thinks he's doing very serious, important work. Because Adam McKay's kind of fallen off. I'm a fan of, though, when he worked with Will Ferrell, that era. I know that they had some sort of falling out. Adam McKay actually seems like kind of a douchebag. Just like, never watch interviews with people that you enjoy. Just don't do it. I'm joking. I couldn't help myself. I would have to, but I remember that he was doing the press tour for Don't Look Up, that Netflix comedy that came out a couple years, and it was the most pretentious, like, arrogant bullshit I have ever seen. Like, him and the actor, like Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio, it was the most insufferable shit I've seen in quite some time. You're like, shut up, Adam McKay. Like, you don't have any fucking clue what you're talking about anything. Professional know-nothings. Vice was not very good. Vice is a huge misfire. Also kind of a incoherent movie. I have, like, no idea what the fuck he's getting at in that movie. Other than Dick Cheney's bad, but also kind of cool. Like, just I don't know. Just unfocused. I've adopted the term, I call him the shitty Oliver Stone. And I know some people don't like Oliver Stone, but he's like even shittier than Oliver Stone. And the kinds of liberties he takes and the way he constructs things and puts them together, it's just like even if you don't like Oliver Stone, like, I think you can at least respect his ability as a storyteller or to tell stories in interesting ways. Adam McKay is just a pale imitation of shit like that, and it's a little cringe. But the other guys is awesome. The other guys is hilarious. Just stop at Anchorman 2. We can give The Big Short a pass. Like, it gets it mostly right. It's good edutainment, if you will, for the most part. Then after that, just stop. Just stop. Like, maybe we could just pretend like he died. Like, man, Adam McKay, he used to make really funny movies. Too bad he's dead. Too bad he passed away. Very tragic. Very tragic. Anyways, that's about it. I don't really have much else to say about it. It's a funny movie. Reviewing comedies is kind of weird because you can't, like, what am I gonna do? Like, retell you the funny parts of the movie? That's kind of lame. But I just think it holds together. It held up pretty well for what it was, and it has a ton of good gags. I mean, the homeless guy's fucking in the car. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in here. Lots of good bits. If you haven't seen it in a while, I would totally recommend it. I guess the last thing I'll say, though, this is an old-ass Blu-ray, dude. Look at that. It's even got the old digital copy thing there. Back in the day, they didn't have, like, regular digital copies. Our digital libraries were very different. You used to have to pop the DVD into your computer and then, like, rip the digital copy, which you would just have a digital file of it. Usually there was some sort of proprietary software, too, so that, obviously they didn't want people pirating that stuff. So you would have to watch it in all sorts of weird fucking ways. It was like a waste of time. I remember I used to pipeline, and I was out watching. I wanted to watch it, and I wanted to take my laptop with the digital copy of the movie Predators out on the line with me because there were days sometimes you'd have a lot of downtime, and it was so frustrating and irritating. I just gave up, and I was just like, oh well, I guess I'll just be pulling my putt out there. I guess so. But anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you would like to know more about Zoobox, bunch of links in the description, and we'll talk to you soon. Adios.